Okay, so what if the most powerful thing you could actually train isn't focus, isn't discipline? Like, we are always told hustle harder, be more consistent, build better habits. But what if the thing that actually unlocks everything is memory? And I don't mean like remember where you put your keys. I mean memory as in the faculty that keeps you together when everything around you is shifting. I'm making a series of short videos digging into this, and this is the introduction. In this video, I want to share why I think memory is key to naturally dropping into altered states of consciousness. Through 4 people who each figured this out, maybe without even realizing it at first, completely on their own and from totally different directions.
4 people who all landed on the same thing. Totally normal. Nothing to see here. Please don't connect the dots.
So the first one, Robert Monroe. When you read Robert Monroe, Journeys Out of the Body, Far Journeys, he comes across like someone who was just built for out of body experiences. Like leaving his body was something he could do the way some people play music by ear. Now, if you hear that and think, oh, he must have been some kind of guru or mystic. No, he was a radio executive, genuinely just a guy who ran a radio company.
How did I get into this field? By accident.
And he started the whole thing with one obsession, memory. Specifically,
And what we first came up with and started conducting in our research and development division of our company was how to help people learn while they are asleep.
he asked, can the sleeping brain actually absorb new information? Like, can you feed it something while it's completely under and have it remember when it wakes up? So his company built a whole research division around that question, playing audio recordings to sleeping subjects like educational content and just tracking what stuck, what the brain held on to. That's it. That was his whole thing, essentially memory research.
Boring man. Radio. Very normal career. Please do not keep reading about him.
He started using himself as a test subject.
In that research pattern, I was the chief subject because I demanded it because I was very curious.
He wanted to find how memory performed at the edge between waking and sleeping, where he believed the brain might be most receptive, most able to absorb and hold onto new information. So he would lie down, cut out all distractions, hover right at the threshold over and over, not to go anywhere, just to see what memory could do there. And then something started happening to him. These intense vibrations taking over his whole body every time he got close to that edge. It kept happening until one night he was completely out of his body without even trying to be.
But simply put, at that time, I began to experience moving out of my body.
He spent the rest of his life developing Hemi-Sync, audio technology that uses binaural beats to guide the brain into specific altered states. And here's the wild part. It turned out those altered states, the theta states, those deep in between places are exactly where the brain consolidates memory, where it learns best, where it's most open and most absorbent. The CIA got involved. That's how serious it got. Robert Monroe didn't set out to explore altered states. He set out to understand memory, and memory led him straight to the door.
That door is not for you. It's a restricted door. I don't make the rules. I do, actually. Don't open it.
Okay, second person, Stephen LaBerge, Stanford researcher, probably the most serious scientist who ever studied lucid dreaming. And his famous technique, the one people still use today, is literally called the mnemonic induction of lucid dreams.
Mnemonic. Suspicious word. I'm noting it.
Mnemonic, that's a memory word. The whole thing runs on what's called prospective memory, which is basically your ability to carry on intentions forward through time. Like you decide something now, and your brain holds onto it and surfaces it later on its own. And what LaBerge figured out is that if you actually train that, like really develop that muscle, you can carry it all the way through sleep. And you wake up inside the dream knowing you're dreaming. The memory training isn't a warm up, it's the whole method.
So memory is like a rope you hold on to.
Exactly like that.
Don't hold the rope. Drop the rope. Forget the rope. There is no rope.
Okay, this next one is my favorite. There was this French marquis in the 1800s, the Marquis de Saint-Denis, and he started keeping a dream journal when he was 13. Every single night, every dream, he ended up with 22 notebooks, nearly 2,000 dreams with drawings.
22 notebooks. This is what memory training looks like up close. It's not cute.
By the time he wrote his book, he could go wherever he wanted in a dream, control it completely, use it like a lab. He is actually considered the real father of modern lucid dreaming. And here's the thing, he didn't stumble into it. He didn't meditate his way there. He didn't get lucky. He just remembered his way there. Night after night, year after year, memory was the tool, and it gave him the keys.
22 notebooks. I'm just saying. That's commitment. Extremely inconvenient commitment.
And then there's Andrew Holacek. So this guy, classical music training, degree in biology, doctorate in dental surgery, and then becomes one of the world's top dream yoga teachers. The music piece, in my opinion, is the quietly important one because memorizing a full concert repertoire, that is one of the most demanding memory disciplines that exists.
The countless hours spent in the practice room.
It's not just learning notes, it's holding entire structures of sound in your mind perfectly, under pressure, on demand. That's years of training that muscle.
Franz Liszt wrote this unbelievable set of studies called the Transcendental Etudes, which, appropriately named, where they're so fiendishly difficult technically that they're called transcendental because you have to have a transcendental technique in order to get the music off the page under your fingers, transcend the technique, and actually perform the art.
And then he starts practicing Beethoven's sonatas in his lucid dreams. The memory work and the dream work just merged. One kept sharpening the other, and he couldn't separate them anymore.
He does homework in his sleep with memory on purpose. I need a moment.
Can I do homework in my dreams? That's the whole idea, sweetheart.
No, you may not. Sleep is for forgetting. That is its entire purpose. Ask anyone. Ask me.
So here's my thesis. Monroe, LaBerge, Saint-Denis, Holacek. 4 people, different worlds. A radio exec, a Stanford scientist, a French marquis, a dentist who plays piano. They never met, they weren't following the same tradition, an out-of-body traveler, a lucid dreamer, a dream architect, a dream yogi, and they all got there the same way, in my opinion. Memory faculty. Memory. Not as a hack, not to be more productive, but as a thread. The thing that keeps some part of you coherent when everything else goes under. What if memory isn't just about the past? What if it's actually the thing that lets your consciousness stay you across sleep, across dreams, across wherever else we might go? That's the question I'm going to explore in this series. In every episode, I'm going to present one real memory enhancing technique and where it actually leads.
Don't pull the thread. I mean, this has been very informative. I'll be monitoring developments from a distance with concern.
Subscribe so you're here for the next one. We're just getting started.
Or don't subscribe. Memory is overrated. Forgetting is underrated. I forgot 17 things today, and I feel great.